Welcome to Category Visionaries, the show dedicated to exploring exciting visions for the future from the founders who are on the front lines building it. In each episode, we'll speak with a visionary founder who's building a new category or reimagining an existing one. We'll learn about the problem they solve, how their technology works, and unpack their vision for the future. I'm your host, Brett Stapper, CEO of Frontlines Media. Now let's dive right into today's episode.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Category Visionaries. Today we're speaking with Brian Giamo, CEO and co-founder of Activate OS. Brian, what's up, man?
Hey, Brett. How's it going?
Awesome, and I'm super excited to have you here. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Talk to us about what you're building there at Activate.
Yeah, so maybe I'll start a little bit with the origin story. So we were just talking about this briefly, but I started out really as a consultant doing go-to-market strategy planning, over 25 years ago for folks, and ended up starting my own consulting business. And shortly after that time, I picked up Caterpillar Corporate and started to work with them really on their go-to-market strategy and planning and working with their dealers and their customers and really helping their dealerships figure out how to better help their customers keep their equipment up and running. So everything after the sale, from acquiring the piece of equipment to divesting of it and then taking care of it on job sites. And did that, really started to develop sort of an industry niche in that space and realized that there were some challenges with that equipment management. And so that was really sort of the genesis of Activate. We started as really a project in the consulting business to solve that problem. How do we help folks that rent heavy equipment on construction sites? How do we help them keep those assets up and running and productive? And what we found out along that way was in order to do that, it's really a team sport. And the solutions on the marketplace really weren't geared around a team sport. They were very point solution focused. And, so we said, hey, look, there's an opportunity here to come up with, really an equipment management operating system where all the different stakeholders that are involved with keeping an asset running and productive on a job site could participate and make sure that that happened. And so that's really kind of the beginnings of Activate. And, we've just kept evolving that concept over really many years. And I would say over the past, 2, 3, 4 years have really formalized it, gained a lot of traction in the marketplace and, are starting to get a lot of proof of value out there in terms of results we're delivering to the guys that own and operate the equipment, the construction companies out there, and then also the dealers and the equipment dealers and the rental companies and service providers that work with them.
I see it was founded in 2016. How long did it take till really started to feel like things were working?
Gosh, that's a great question. I think, it's always continuous improvement, right? But, I would say probably, in terms of really crystallizing the go-to-market and product market fit, I would say we really have sort of, probably just arrived there in 2022 or 2023. It took a lot of years, right? And we were delivering value before that, but I think really today is the strongest place that we've ever been in terms of, how we're packaging our value proposition and how we're delivering that to our customers.
Let's talk a little bit about the market category that you're in. When it comes to the market category, what bucket do customers put you in?
Yeah, so we're software as a service company, but I think really overall we're delivering not just a software as a service, but we're delivering a networked solution. And so, I'll give you an example of that. We are the equipment management solution on a very large joint venture project, bridge and tunnel expansion in the state of Virginia. It's actually the largest bridge and tunnel expansion in the state of Virginia. And we've been the equipment management solution on that job site for several years now. And their operators, their technicians, they're using our apps in the field to do inspections on equipment, report equipment issues, so on and so forth. And so that's helped them reduce their owning and operating costs of that equipment that's on the site. And it's also helped them be more productive, make sure the assets stay up and running. But I think the unique thing that really we're doing is we're then connecting them back from that job site to the dealers and to the rental companies that provide them that equipment and that they count on to keep it up and running. So, for example, we're connecting them back to their major rental companies, the United Rentals of the world and the Sun Belts. We're connecting them to their dealers, like their local Caterpillar dealer, in real time so that they can collaboratively work to keep that equipment up and running and productive. And so, for us, we're really kind of serving both sides with a SaaS solution. But the biggest part of what we're doing is, I don't feel like we're selling software, right? We're really selling a result. We're really selling, production of those assets on a job site and more effective communications to enable that and make sure, we're getting the right information in the hands of the right people at the right time to take action.
This show is brought to you by Frontlines Media, a podcast production studio that helps B2B founders launch, manage, and grow their own podcast. Now, if you're a founder, you may be thinking, I don't have time to host a podcast. I've got a company to build. Well, that's exactly what we built our service to do. You show up and host, and we handle literally everything else. To set up a call to discuss launching your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. Now, back to today's episode.
Amazing. Super, super compelling there. What about the marketing strategy? How would you describe the marketing strategy that you started with? And then what are the big evolutions that have taken place since founding the company?
Yeah, I think when we started out, we were really trying to tell our story to all of the stakeholders, right? We were trying to tell dealers and rental companies what we do, and we were trying to tell, construction companies and the fleet owner side what we do. And it was too broad, right? And our go-to-market was frankly too broad in the way that unfolded. And so today, the big shift that we've made is we've realized that, we go out in the marketplace and we capture the fleet owner, that construction company, like I just mentioned, who's doing the bridge and tunnel expansion. We sign somebody up like that. They get onto our platform. They start managing all their equipment. They load their assets. They start managing their equipment. And they load all of their providers, what we call their providers, which are the dealers and the rental companies that they work with. And then right away, those dealers and rental companies start getting messages to say, hey, did you know this piece of equipment, it's down, it needs to be fixed, right? So they're getting opportunities from that fleet owner. So we've really kind of narrowed our focus to first acquire the fleet owner, get them on board, then connect them to their providers, their dealers and rental companies. And that's the second leg of the three-legged stool here in terms of our go-to-market. And so that starts to create the network effect, right? So one fleet owner could be connected to 5, 6, 7, 10 different dealers and rental companies. From there, what we do with those dealers and rental companies is you say, hey, you've gotten value out of this, right? You're more efficient at delivering service to this fleet owner. They're getting better, faster service. You should really think about rolling this out to the rest of your customer base. And so they start to become a distribution partner for us or a channel partner, right? And so it's a kind of a 1, 2, 3 go-to-market approach where we acquire the fleet owner, they load their dealers, rental companies, providers. There's value starting to exchange there. And then we work with the dealers and the rental companies to get them to roll out our solution. We give them all the tools to do that, white label solution. They can roll it out to the rest of their customer base. So it really is very much a network effect, right? It's very much a many-to-many business model.
When you reflect on this journey, what do you think's been the most important go-to-market decision? And maybe take us back behind the scenes. Like, how did you make that decision in the first place?
Yeah, I think it was getting focused, right? And understanding the starting point was. And so, rewind, like I would say probably 24, 36 months. 36 months ago, that go-to-market model, that 1, 2, 3 I was describing to you, acquire the fleet owner, get them connected to their providers, and then get the providers to be distribution partners. We were doing that completely in reverse, right? We were trying to go to the providers and get them to be distribution partners before we had the fleet owners and proved our value. And we had to kind of reverse out of that and say, you know what, this really isn't the natural way that this works. The natural way that this works is acquire the fleet owner, get them connected to a provider. They mutually see value and benefit in keeping their equipment up and running. And then we can get these dealers and rental companies to distribute this out to the rest of their customer base. It sounds simple and intuitive, but, when 24, 36 months ago, when we were doing this, we were saying, well, why wouldn't, in our minds, we were saying, well, why wouldn't you as a dealer or rental company want to distribute this to the rest of your customer base and have them get value out of this, right? But it really didn't work that way in real life. And so as we applied that, we realized, hey, this isn't working. And, we really kind of had to hit the reverse button and say, what is the true go-to-market model that's going to work in the marketplace? And now today we're seeing so much better results from that. It's so much easier to sell. It's so much easier to market. It's so much easier to just go to market because our focus is on acquiring the fleet owners and the natural outcome or fallout of that is their dealers, their rental companies want to be connected to them in real time.
This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Co., a marketing leader's best friend in these times of budget cuts and efficient growth. We help marketing leaders find, hire, vet, and manage amazing marketing talent for 50 to 70% less than their U.S. and European counterparts. To book a free consultation, visit globaltalent.co.
Let's talk a little bit about fundraising. So you've raised over $4 million to date. What have you learned about fundraising so far, and how have you seen it evolve? I could be wrong here, my view, but I would imagine that in 2016, 2017, a lot of VCs weren't thinking about this space, but it seems like there's been a shift. It seems like there's a trend where VCs are more open in exploring markets like yours.
Yeah, you're right. I think it's interesting. The way we raised was pretty strategically. We actually really never went out and actively raised. One of our lead investors is a large Caterpillar dealer, and then another one of our investors is from the industry. And both of those were through relationships and through discussions and just talking about the business and what we were doing and finding mutual value and mutual benefit in them being on the team, being on the cap table. So I think where we're at is we are out kind of raising our next round. What I noticed over the past probably year and a half, 2 years, weekly, I'm getting venture capital firms, private equity firms that reach out to me and say, hey, we've got a construction vertical, right? You talk to our VP of construction and industrial. And I think that's a shift. It certainly, I don't think has been like that historically, but I'm noticing much more that the venture capital guys and the private equity guys, they are verticalizing around this industry. And even folks that maybe haven't historically participated in it are starting to get into the fray.
Final question for you. Let's zoom out 3 to 5 years into the future. What's the big picture vision look like here?
Yeah. So I think for us, the big picture vision is, I see it just in sort of its infancy. We're delivering value to both the fleet owner side, construction guys, and increased uptime of their equipment, and to their dealers and rental companies with helping them have a better relationship with their customers, better customer experience. So that's all great. We're delivering that today. And from a business model perspective, Activate is generating its revenue through SaaS fees. But I see the future in delivering services well beyond that, right? So both in terms of helping these fleet owners transact business, buy parts, get service, buy or rent equipment, also in advisory services. So I think AI, and I know everybody talks about AI, right? But I think for us, the way we see AI is an enabler of the people in those workflows and in those processes, specifically in this area of fractional or outsourced equipment management. There's lots of small to mid-size construction companies out there who don't have an equipment manager and may never have an equipment manager. So the idea of being able to, through some fractional or automated way or through AI, be able to give them the ability to have an equipment management function or an equipment manager or a fleet manager through those AI-enabled services, I really kind of see that as sort of the future of what we're doing at Activate.
Amazing. I love the vision. We're going to go ahead and wrap here. Before we do, if there's any founders listening in that want to follow along with your journey as you build and execute on this amazing vision, where should we send them? Where should they go?
Yeah, absolutely. ActivateOS.com is our website, but definitely follow us on LinkedIn. Message me on LinkedIn or follow us on LinkedIn. Would love to talk to other founders. I find those conversations extremely valuable and insightful. I always learn tons of stuff by talking to other folks that are doing cool stuff.
Amazing. I love it. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you so much, Brad. Appreciate you.
This episode of Category Visionaries is brought to you by Frontlines Media, Silicon Valley's leading podcast production studio. If you're a B2B founder looking for help launching and growing your own podcast, visit frontlines.io/podcast. And for the latest episode, search for Category Visionaries on your podcast platform of choice. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next episode.